All right, so welcome back again. So in this one, we're learning about launching new intents. So just for a little while, it's going to have almost nothing to do with Firebase, but it's just how do you get a genuine different screen to show up. And we'll also go ahead and we'll pass a little bit of data over. So obviously this other screen needs to know like who was clicked so it can show the right things. And what we're going to pass over is actually the ID of the document. So we're just going to pass that one string over. Now in this one, we're just going to maybe just display the ID of the document. But some things that you can see we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make the other activity, make a layout for it. So we have to make a layout, set up its floating action button to be like an edit pencil, and then set up its menu to be the delete. Also mentioned, you'll notice there's no menu here. This is the solution I'm looking at. And then there is a menu over in this one. So that's what we're up to. So let's not bury the lead. Let's just go ahead and make a new activity right now. So for a new activity, it's going to actually do a couple different things. So make sure your Git repository is empty. And let's go ahead and make a new activity. Now I'm going to right click on the package here and say new activity, basic activity. It kind of showed up over here. I was expecting it over on this side. But to be honest, you could actually click anywhere because activities are bigger than just code, right? Because it's going to make a code file, obviously. It's going to make two layout files. So if you kind of look at our other activity, it has two layout files. It's got like activity main and then content main. So it's kind of two layout files. It also is going to do some things to the manifest. So the manifest has to register all the different activities. Right now you can see that there's one activity, but as soon as we do this step, there's going to be another. So right click on here, new activity and basic activity. What do you want this activity to be called? So this is a movie quote detail activity. So you'll notice that I have various things unchecked here as well. It's in Java. You could actually pick Kotlin if you wanted. Movie quote detail activity. So this is where you see the details about a movie quote. Kind of a verbose name, but that's what I'm going with. So you click on create activity. Android Studio does some crazy things at the bottom. And you could actually see what changed with a GitHub changes, right? So it changed the manifest. So I added in another whole activity here. It created a Java file for you, so you can see that Java file before we even open it up. It's got a little floating action button. It created a XML called activity for the XML, so this is kind of like the bigger, the outside one. And it created the content of it, so the content movie quote detail. And then it also made a string, which I don't like the name of, so movie quote detail activity. We'll go fix that later, but we'll just say create a new activity. By the way, you used to have to do all those different things manually, and now you can just do them with a click of a button, and it's much easier. Big fan of these changes. So who knows where we should start on this? There's a lot of different places to start. For whatever reason, I'm going to start at the activity movie quote detail. It's kind of the highest level of the XML. And the thing that I'm going to change is the floating action button. So I can't see it yet. Maybe with the preview I can see it real quick. But it's going to have a mail icon down there, and I don't want that mail icon. I'm going to say tent. Oops, that's not tent. Tent. Android color white. And instead of the mail icon, I'm going to use menu edit. By the way, I love that I typed it wrong, but Android Studio still found it, right? I just started typing IC edit, but it's actually menu edit. No big deal, it found it. So that's an easy thing to fix up there. Other things, what the heck, it popped up the content movie quote detail layout. We got to tackle the layout at some point. May as well do it now. Instead of a constraint layout, I could do this with a relative layout, but I think that it's simple enough. I'll use a linear layout. So what we're making here is we're making this guy. You can see there's really just 4 text views, which isn't too bad, and they're just kind of stacked vertically here. So I'm going to make my orientation vertical, and I'm going to start putting in some text views. So this first text view is going to say quote on it, and it's just going to kind of be up here in the corner. Note how it's not right in the corner, so my linear layout must have had some padding. Stick some padding on here. We'll just do 20 dps. This text view, the width can actually just be match parent. The height can be wrap content. The text can say quote. And I mean, if our preview is working well, we can see it shows up just fine and dandy. Great. Don't need an ID on that because I'm not in a relative layout. Don't need it for that purpose, and I don't change it in code. So I just keep it to the bare minimum. The next one is going to actually be my movie quote. So I'll tell you what, we'll cheat and we'll just say quote goes here. And you can kind of see with the preview that it kind of looks just like the one above it at first. So we got to fix some of that. Let's do some things like setting the text color maybe. So we'll make its color be the color black. We'll make its size be bigger, I don't know, 20 SPs. Maybe we could go even bigger than that. I also want it to be centered, so we'll say gravity center, and we'll just kind of see what that looks like, and it's already looking better. So quote goes here, looks pretty good. Might want a little margin on it. What the heck, I'll put a little margin on the top and bottom. Don't really care if it goes in the left or right or not, but I'll put some on the top and bottom. Let's say 20 dps. Looks good. This one's also going to need an ID because it's going to change, and so this is the detail view quote is what this one is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this because I've got a very similar thing coming for the movie, and then the detail movie. And this is going to say the movie goes here. So I know that that was quick, but I just kind of copied it and made another another one that says movie goes here, changing a couple of the important things like the ID has to be for the movie. The text doesn't really matter, it's just so you can see it. The text size, I'll tell you what, we'll make it a little smaller. We'll just say 16. And I think that'll look good enough, right? So there's kind of our new layout for this guy. Great, so that had to get done at some point, so we just kind of did it now. Great. Next up, let's fix the menu, just because I want the menu to kind of do the right thing. So we've kind of been leaving our menu code in main activity just for this moment. So on create options menu and on options item selected, they actually don't need to be in main activity because it doesn't have a menu. But our detail view will have a menu. So I'm going to come in here, making sure I'm not quite at the bottom of the file, make sure I'm within that last closing curly brace, and I'm going to paste it in here. Now, admittedly, maybe it should use a different name for the menu. Right now it's using main menu, which is just a file that's in here. Maybe it should be renamed, but I don't care. I'm just going to leave it named main menu because it's fine. Nothing wrong with using that name. Let's go fix main menu though. Right now it says settings, but I want to say delete and have an icon. I don't know the name of it, but it looks like IC delete. Worked out fine. I don't want to show as action always. So this is menus, a little review of menus. So this is going to be my action delete, category 100, which I don't really think that does anything useful, but I may as well have it on there. It'll say the word delete, but to be honest, it's going to show up as a delete icon. You know what? I don't like that icon though. It's kind of like a red X. I don't want that one. I think there's another one. I think menu delete. Yeah, trash can. That's what I want. That little thing just came in handy. Menu delete. Cool. And then, I mean, we could write more code in here if we wanted. Heck, we'll do just a little bit. And what we're going to do here is I always like using a switch statement. Item, get item ID, and if it's the case is equal to r.id.action delete, then we're going to do stuff, right? So their style of their code was fine. It would get the ID like that. I just prefer a switch statement. And then it used if statements to do things, but I just prefer a switch. And so we'll just kind of get that ready. And then we'll put a to-do in here. It says to-do, delete this quote, and close this activity. So if somebody deletes it, then the activity is meaningless, so it should get out of there. We'll do that next time. I just kind of wanted to stub it out. Great, so there's enough going on in here to where if we were to launch this activity, it would do stuff, right? So like if we had it to where we could click a row, sorry, I thought I had it up there. We would see a trash can, we would see a pencil icon. Let's see if we can launch a row. So come back over to your movie quote adapter, find the movie quote view holder. And if you remember, this is where, like in the constructor here, is where we kind of put interactions with this item. So what we can do here is we can say, item view, set the on-click listener to a new on-click listener. And so when somebody clicks this item, I want to do something. Now what I want to do is I want to start an activity. In order to start an activity, you need the context. I'm getting kind of deep here right now. The context is the main activity, but where are we at right now? We're over in the adapter, so we're not an activity. So normally you could just say like this, right? But we're not an activity. In fact, we're an inner class, and our outer class is not an activity either. But what you can do, which is kind of neat, is you can say, hey, view, get the context. And so the context, which in this case is main activity, it's both an activity and a context. Context is the superclass of an activity. Context, we want to start an activity, is what we want to do. Now, in order to start an activity, you need an intent. We've seen this code before. We've had menu button items launch into settings. So we've made intents before, but we're going to have to make an intent. So our intent is going to be a new intent. And this new intent, I got it to pop up here, has a couple different things it can do. So one thing it can do is it can pass a context and then a class. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to kind of use that version there. So the context is C. That's our context. C may not have been a great variable name. Perhaps I should have typed it as context, but that's okay. And then the class name is movie quote detail activity dot class. So we're saying, hey, here's an intent for this guy. And so here we're going to launch, start the activity for this intent. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to pass things into it, but you know what? I'm a little anxious to see if it works. And so I want to just run it, passing nothing in, right? So once it's launched up here, we should hopefully be able to click rows, and they will launch that activity. So if I click quote 4, it worked, right? So it says quote goes here, movie goes here. Beautiful. Clicking the delete button doesn't really do anything. Clicking the fab maybe shows a snack bar. Next question is, how do you go back? Well, on Android, you just hit the back button, right? So iOS is kind of like, you have to have like a back button up here, but Android's always got a back button, so you just click the back button. So we're launching the activity, which is great. Feels like a check-in to me. So I've got all this code. So we did a couple things in that new activity. It like shows the menu and it shows the fab. So this is really launch second activity. Cool. By the way, we're not going to do it in this video, but you can also pass data back, which also happens via an intent. If you need that for your project, you'll be able to look it up. But this time, the only thing we need to do is we need to pass data that direction. The way you do it is you say intent.putExtra. And what we're going to pass is we're going to pass a document ID. And so the document ID is whatever document just got clicked. Obviously, we're going to be good, and we're going to make this into a constant, right? So I'm going to say public static final, and then instead of calling it key created, I'm going to call it, you know what, it's an extra for an intent, so I'll call it extra doc ID. Cool, and that'll be useful on both sides because we got to pass it from here to there. So that's our extra doc ID. The other thing we need to have is we need to have the ID of this document. Let's go ahead and do this in kind of like 2 lines of code. So we need the document snapshot, which is the movie quote documents get. How do you know your current position? Well, there's a function get adapter position. By the way, once you have done enough of these apps and you know these tricks, like, hey, there's just a function you can call to get the position, your life is so much easier because looking up things like that takes forever. Document snapshot, get ID. So we're going to pass the ID over, and in this video we're just going to make sure we've received it and maybe display it to the screen or something like that. But this idea of passing things to other intents is very important, right? So we come over to the other activity. So now we're in the movie quote activity. And what we want to do is we want to get this data out, right? So what we've got here, so we've got an intent, so this is the received intent. And so we can say get intent. And so from this received intent, we need to pull out the document ID. So we've got the received intent, get string extra. And the string extra that we want is the constant for extra doc ID. And then in this video, maybe we just want to show it as the quote or something like that. So we need to do a little bit of the boilerplate stuff. We need to have an accessor to the text views, right? So we need the quote text view. It's funny that you end up kind of like getting access to these 2 things in so many different places because you've got like in the dialog, and you've got it in the item view, and now you've got it in the detail view. But we need access to the quote and then the movie text view. We of course need to do the classic find view by ID, r.id.detail quote. And then I don't know if this is going to save me time or not, but I'll copy paste it so that I can only change the parts that are important. So there I've captured my text views, which are good. And then this is a temp test. We're just going to take the quote text view and we're going to set the text to the document ID. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to prove that we know that we've clicked it, right? Does that make sense? So we're going to go ahead and run it. We're going to go ahead and show the back end as well. So movie 4, quote 4, should have this CJ name. So if I click on this guy, sure enough, it knows that I've clicked that one. Hit the back button. So movie 2 is 7H. Let me go ahead and check one more. So movie 2, quote 2, 7H. Worked perfectly. Great. So this is a very useful concept for you. So this is, you make a string, and then this is how you pass it in. So you put it in that extra, and then within onCreate typically is where you get the intent, and then you pull it out. Tell you what, just because that code was so simple over here, I'm going to inline it. So I'm going to take get intent, and I'm going to put it in, and just avoid the variable name. Cool. All right, so we're going to cut this one off here. So this is passing an intent extra. And next time we'll come back and we'll actually do the Firebase listening, so we can listen to that thing, and then we'll maybe tack on the edit and the delete. So those are the things we have left. We have to kind of do read for the other activity, and then we have to do update and delete, and then this thing will be knocked out. All right, great work. See you next time.